when you're feeling down and like your world's moving slow, just remember your race. It moves at your pace when marching towards your goals. And brighter than the stars. Don't take impossible. Nothing is impossible. You're brighter than the stars. An angel, 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 soaring like an eagle, eagle, eagle. Nothing is impossible. Don't take impossible. You're brighter than the stars.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talking with 3D. I am your host, Derrick Durrell Dixon, and I am so excited for you to be joining me back for our second season. The whole month of January, we missed you, but we are back with brand new shows right here on Plush Work TV. And we are going to be bringing you some exciting shows. We've got Dr. Deborah Wortham, who is here today. We have Jacqueline Carter. We also have Tim Thorne and so many other shows that we're going to be producing for you. So we want to thank you. I want to personally thank you for always supporting Talking with 3D, because you know what? This is real talk for real people. And we want to be able to educate you. We want to be able to have fun, and we want to be able to tell your stories. And today we are talking about the pandemic and the progress to the pandemic and how it has changed the moment that we are living in right now. So, you know, we want you to sit back and just absorb everything that we're going to be talking about today. You know, the moment we're living in right now, 1.6 billion students in over 190 countries have already experienced disruption to education. 24 million children and youth have dropped out permanently due to the pandemic. 2/3 of school-aged children worldwide have no access to the internet at home and unable to even attend virtual classes. 150 million children have been driven into poverty. 8 in 10 children feel neglect feelings and experience violence at home because of the fact of what the parents are even going through. So we have to learn the new ways of learning. We have to know the new ways of educating. We have to be able to communicate. And as parents, I think it's very important that we are still so involved with our children and how our children learn. So today I want you to sit back and just watch this show with an open mind and understand that, you know what, education is powerful. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, my guest, Dr. Deborah Wortham, is here, ladies and gentlemen, and I am so excited to have her. We have had a history of knowing each other. I felt like, having Dr. Wortham on the show, I gotta say all my words right and everything. You know, I love, talking with her because we do have so much fun. And when we come back, I will introduce you formally to Dr. Deborah Wortham. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, because this is Talking with 3D, because this is real talk for real people.
Hi, I'm Dr. Teresa Smith, the Associate Dean of Graduate Medical Education at SUNY Downstate Health Sciences University. There's a lot of misinformation about the COVID-19 vaccine, so it's critical that you get the facts from sources you can trust. Here's one misconception, that the vaccine will alter your DNA. This is false. The current vaccines are mRNA vaccines, which provide a genetic code for your body to produce a protein. In this case, the COVID spike. Once that genetic code is done producing the COVID spike protein, it's eventually degraded by your body, and therefore it does not stick around, and it cannot change your DNA. The ultimate goal is to have your body develop an immune system response to those COVID spikes by forming antibodies against it. With this immune system memory, every time your body sees COVID, you will have fighter antibodies that remember the COVID spikes. This will protect you from getting lethally sick. That's the truth. The COVID-19 vaccine is safe, effective, and our best chances at protecting ourselves and getting back to normal. So before you make up your mind, Know your facts.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back right here talking with 3D, with Touchwork TV. And I am so excited. Dr. Wortham is in the house. Dr. Wortham, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I am well. I love this virtual, this Zoom, everything that we can do because we can still communicate, we can still talk and still have relationships with people. We don't touch as we used to, but still we're able just to reach out. We're still able to have these conversations. And I think it is so important. But I thank you for taking the time out to be on my show, kicking off my second season of Talking with 3D. So again, welcome and thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Listen, we're going to be talking about you are a superintendent, and that alone is one of the greatest honors to have. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Wortham. Her resume is miles long, and then it will take up a whole hour for me to brag on Dr. Wortham, but I think it's very important that we do brag on people that need to be bragged on, because we always want to give them their accolades and their flowers when they're gone, when we should be doing it right now and let people know that what people do and how important they are to people's lives, especially our children that are being educated. And our children could be 21 and over. That could be in college. That could be, our elementary, our junior high, our high school. It's so important to us. And I thought it was very important to have Dr. Wortham on here to talk about how important education is and how it has affected us through this pandemic. So Dr. Wortham, she is an educator, professor, and author, an elder, and national recognized on the lecture circuit. A native of Chicago, she's prepared spiritual, educational. She's also the first local elected, she was the first local elected superintendent of the Roosevelt Union Free School District in 11 years. Dr. Wortham also served as the first African-American female superintendent in the Spring Valley, New York, where all 12 of the K-8 schools moved to good standing. Now, let me tell you, if you don't understand what that means, that she shifted and turn things around. Now, you thought that, what was his name on Stand By Me, Principal Joe?
Joe Clark.
Joe Clark, Dr. Deborah Wortham. Joe Clark didn't have nothing on Dr. Deborah Wortham. That right there is something to talk about and say congratulations for doing something as that. Also a mother and wife. She does so much in the community. And, we have to, again, thank you for the things that you have done and turning around, especially in these times. So Dr. Wortham, let's just get right into it. And there's so many other things that you have done that we want to discuss as well. Walk us through the pandemic. We have a new structure of learning. How do you think that has affected, first off, our students and the way that they are now learning? Because, 1 minute, every day it's changing. And then 1 minute we're wearing masks. 1 minute we're not wearing masks. 1 minute we have to go virtual. 1 minute you may not have to. We've got half of our students still at home doing virtual, and then the rest in our classes. So how has that affected our students, first off, the progress through the pandemic? Is there progress? Where are we going with that?
I'm going to say that there is progress through the pandemic. And when I say progress through the pandemic, our students, our teachers, our parents have worked in ways that no one ever saw schooling take place before. I had a thought when I was meditating the other day, and I thought about COVID-19. And CO in COVID talks about, in my mind, collaboration, coming together, commitment. And then the VI stood for victim.
Mm.
And the D stood for disease and disasters. So unless we come together, we're committed, we collaborate, then we will be victims of a disease. Or coming together, collaborating, being committed. The VI would stand for victory, and
Mm.
then the D would stand for destiny.
Wow.
So in this pandemic,
Mm.
I can see progress through the pandemic because we have decided through a growth mindset, an efficacious mindset, that we will collaborate in some way. Like I'm in New York, you're in Maryland or wherever. And I
Mhm.
know I can account for me being in New York. So coming
Now
together,
see you over there telling my business right now.
somewhere you are somewhere, I know where I am. And you collaborate, you come together, and then you can
Mhm.
have the victory and continue to reach your destiny. So
Mm.
every day we message our young people. I was superintendent of a district that had 38,000 students
Mm.
when the pandemic started. When I received a phone call from the commissioner, Department of Health, and the commissioner said, you have 3 students who tested positive for coronavirus. Now, I couldn't pronounce it, spell it. What are you talking about?
Mhm.
Coronavirus. And she went on to say that you have to close those 3 schools. Now, when you
Mm.
think about teachers traveling from one location to the next. Well, if this is that serious, then we have to close more than 3 schools. We have to close all of the schools in the
Mm.
district. I remember her clearly saying, you don't have the authority to close schools. And I thought in my mind, I'm glad my lips didn't move, but no, you don't have the authority to tell me that I can't keep my children safe.
Right.
So that's when that collaboration, the commitment, the coming together. And I met with my team, and this was on a Friday evening, and I do have the authority to close schools on Saturday and Sunday. And we did that. We stopped all of the state meets and things like
Mhm.
that. And then on Monday, we used a professional development day. And Tuesday, we used the superintendent's conference day. And then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we used our 3 days from our spring break. Now, during that time, I appealed to the governor to say we need to close schools. And that's
Mm.
when we added new vocabulary to our words, executive order.
Okay.
The governor put in an executive order to close all of the schools in the state for the next 2 weeks. Collaboration, coming together, commitment.
Mm.
We've learned to work on a much larger scale for the good of our young people, for the good of our teachers, for the good of our communities. Those are the things that would not have happened, a unifying, if you will, had we not been in this COVID moment.
And
So is there progress
mhm.
through the pandemic? On many different ways,
Mm.
we've been able to take advantage during a crisis.
Mm. Dr. Wortham, I just really always enjoy listening to you because you took the word COVID and
Mhm.
took the negative out of it and made it a positive that, like you said, that we can turn things around. We can collaborate, we can be victorious because we have to look at our destiny in this.
Right,
So therefore, you know, we have to take the fear out of tomorrow.
right,
If
right,
we take the fear out of what's going to happen tomorrow, live in the moment and learn what we're doing in that moment, then we will be victorious. Then we will learn how to collaborate. And I think it's like you just said, it's so important that our parents, our
yes,
our educators, our students, we
right,
have to at this time, we have to learn how to collaborate together. We don't
Exactly.
have a choice. Before, we could send our students off to school
Mhm.
and be like, okay, from 8 to 8:30, from 8:30 to 3:30, this is where you're at.
That's it.
I can go do what I want to do. I can go to brunch. I can go to work. I can sleep in. But now we have to be partial educators.
It's not partial. This is all hands on deck.
All hands
All
on deck.
hands on deck.
Yes.
Exactly. So
Yes.
parents, they have to know the schedules. They have to know, how to log on. You know, I could have had a real moment, and this is why I say progress through the pandemic. And a lot of that is just personal. It's
Mm,
professional too, but it's personal. I remember, March 28th of 2021 when my mom passed,
mm,
during this pandemic. Normally you would have so many people at the homegoing service, but what do? You send out a Zoom link
right.
and people can, say their farewells via Zoom. This is not the time. It's just not the time to not come together. We
Mm,
must model coming together. We've got to articulate it with our parents. Home, I think we all learn the merit and worth on a greater scale of the role of a teacher,
yes.
and the influence and the impact that our teachers have. I talked to a group of high school students the other day, and I said, give me a glow and a grow. They
Mm,
had nothing negative to say. They did say, well, the 10 by 10 rule kind of, gets on our nerves, and that's the code for you can't go to the bathroom 10 minutes before the period is over, or 10 minutes,
right.
after it started. They said, but we kind of got that. But we are so happy to
Mm,
be in fellowship with with our friends and with our teachers. You're talking about high school students
yes.
happy to be in school.
Yes.
That is progress through the pandemic, because we took things for granted before.
Mm. Do you think that we've taken so much from them, so therefore that limits a lot of social skills? Like you say, high school students, you now are secluded to home, so you don't have a lot of interaction with those friends. You don't have a lot of interaction with your teachers, in sports clubs. So therefore, I feel a lot of the social skills have diminished, and now we're trying to build that back up, that confidence and everything. We say, yes, you can do it. Let's get back on track.
Right. Well, this is the first time I've seen physical education taught on Zoom or Google Classroom.
Yes.
This is the first time I've seen a choir with everyone with their earplugs in, singing in three-part harmony, all on the same platform. So if you elevate your mind, then the spirit of creativity will come forward, and you
Yes.
will be able to join together and have that experience. Our spring concert is virtual.
Mm,
It's virtual, and it's going to be awesome.
right. Right. See, and then, like you say, the creativity has to be there. I remember my children doing physical education, and I heard all this jumping around. Sit down somewhere. I realized it was still part of their process that they had to go through, and I had to allow it, because of the fact, if I didn't, then they wouldn't be getting the experience that they needed in order, like you say, the progress that they were going through.
Right.
We had to allow that to happen. And so, everybody is learning a new role. Everybody, like I was saying, that we as parents became educators, and we now had to learn this new math. You know, we have to learn the way, before we could come home and look at the homework and say, okay, well, look at to me,
Exactly.
it looked good to
Exactly.
me. You're all right. Did you get
Pat him on the back and keep going.
right. Keep on going. Yeah, you can go on outside. Go ahead. Yeah, you did good. But we had to learn. You had to sit down. You had to read with your children, and you had to read books, and you had to, help them along the way. Like you say, learning how to sign in Google Meet and all that, things that we've never ever heard of. As
Right.
parents, I'm speaking as parents, we never heard of this. So, we didn't go to school. I didn't go to school with devices. We went to school with, your book bags, your bags. So I'm wondering if this was something that occurred back when I was in school, how would this have affected us differently?
Exactly. Exactly. Just the other day, we pivoted to remote instruction just the other day, because whenever there is inclement weather, then we don't have traditional snow days in our district this year. We
Mhm.
have decided to use every moment as a teaching learning moment. So if it's inclement weather, then we will have remote instruction. And we outfitted every teacher, every psychologist, every student, administrator, every clerical staff member. They all in our district, they all have devices. And so just the other day, I did a survey with the teachers to see, well, how did it go? And the teachers said, well, maybe we need a class on etiquette. And I said,
Mm.
okay, etiquette, not with a knife and fork, or which spoon, dessert spoon, salad fork do you use, but etiquette. How do you respond in the chat? What's the
Mm.
language, appropriate language for the chat?
Right.
What is an appropriate reaction to a question? How do you conduct yourself when you go into the breakout rooms?
Mm.
How do you show up and you're present? What's your demeanor? So we came up with just a few statements for etiquettes. I'm not one really for codes of conduct, displayed everywhere, but just rules of the trade. How do we handle it now? And it
Mm.
was a great activity, and teachers started sharing that with our young people. It's a learning moment. It
Mm.
is an opportunity to elevate, to escalate, and to evaluate where we are today.
There we are today. Listen, Dr. Wortham, we're going to take a quick break, and then we are going to come back because I really want to talk about I love the fact that, talking about the etiquette and the etiquette for the parents. What is the etiquette for the parents and, during this Google Meet and everything, and how important it is at these times to be so involved with your children's education. So don't go nowhere, ladies and gentlemen. We will be right back. You are watching Talking with 3D right here on Plushwork TV. Don't go nowhere.
The pandemic kept me away from my audience. The vaccine is slowly bringing it back.
La vacuna significa que nuestra ciudad y nuestro restaurante pueda florecer otra vez. ¡Viva Baltimore!
These young men in our communities, I tell them to go get vaccinated so they don't bring COVID home.
I care for the sick every day. I got vaccinated because my grandkids need me to.
It's Baltimore versus COVID. Let's win this together.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I have my special guest today, Dr. Deborah Wortham, and we are talking about the progress through the pandemic. Dr. Wortham, I want to talk about the parents, but first off, I would like, because there's a lot of people that don't understand the difference between superintendent. We get the roles all meshed into one. We think principal, superintendent. Where does that all fall in? How am I able to talk to someone of a higher level and things? So what is the actual role of the superintendent in a school district or in stay within that state? What is the difference between the roles?
Well, the roles vary across the different states. I know that I took an oath to
Mm.
uphold the policies, the procedures that govern in the state of New York.
Mm.
And I take that very seriously. I have a board that governs. The board sets policies. They make the policies, and it is up to me to implement the policies.
Mm.
I am blessed to have a very great board, a very strong board, a very knowledgeable board. And it is an honor to be able to work with them. There's a 5-member board. My last district, I had a 9-member board. So superintendents report to the Board of Education, but most importantly, they report to the young people that they serve.
Mm.
You must have the mindset of a servant leader. You must have uh, strategies for communicating with the community and for developing and working with your principals and your teachers. So all of this comes under the role of the superintendent to oversee the curriculum, making sure that the students, that the curriculum is aligned with state standards. And the role of the superintendent in my role, I say that I am an educational evangelist because I want to get everyone to the target. And that target is having being qualified for after high school graduation, career, and college ready. So the
Mm.
goal is to make a commitment to serve and a commitment that every student under your watch will be successful.
Wow. Love it. Listen, I like before we left, I wanted to talk to because I think it's important that we talk to the parents. And because a lot of times parents feel they don't understand the new curriculum that is that the students have at this time. They don't understand the virtual world because the fact that, like we had talked about before, we just send them to school. Now we have to be so involved with our students. And yes, there's a lot of our schools that are back open, but they still work via device. It's not a lot of paper homework. So there's those things that we as parents have to do. So as a parent, how important is it during this progress that we're going through for us to be involved? And how do we motivate our parents to be involved with our students so therefore they do succeed, they reach that destiny?
I think that our parents really know and understand the merit and worth of an education. I know with my 2 young people, not so young anymore, but with my children, I know how I advocated for them when they were in elementary school, middle school, and high school. And so it's with that same passion that I see the parents bringing to the table, that they trust their very most prized possession. They trust them to us to do and to develop them to become the very best people possible. And that's a serious commitment. People purchase homes in particular neighborhoods based on the educational system. And that's
Mm.
one of the things that they check out. I consider myself a real estate agent because when they look at the data, I want them to see that our data is moving forward and that we are making progress. And you can purchase that home because your children will receive a rigorous education. So I think that this has really brought families closer together. You see, I met so many parents via Zoom. so many families. If I'm doing a Zoom with my teachers, I've met the spouse, you know,
Yeah.
the pet, the children, everybody's, you know, jumping into the video. And that's great.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to be strangers. We talk about social emotional learning. We want to be social. We want our emotions to be intact. So therefore, our learning will achieve. That's just the way it goes. So the parents, I've seen so many opportunities in my district. We do a lot with parent involvement so that our parents know the protocol. If there is a concern, you talk to the classroom teacher, then you talk to the principal, then the assistant superintendent, then the superintendent, and then the board. And there's a policy for that. There's a policy for that, a protocol policy. So parents are invested in their child's learning and they want to see them succeed. But if there is a matter that needs to be addressed, there is a protocol that they follow in order to get a resolution.
So I can't just get on the phone and say, I need Dr. Deborah Wortham on the phone right now because I got a problem because the teacher talking to my child a certain way, and I want the superintendent to calm down and fix this situation.
Right now.
Today.
Put your lunch down.
Stop what you're doing and fix my child's problem.
That's right. And you know what? And they are entitled to do that. And so so in my district, we make sure that our parents get in a response immediately. I know that a parent wrote me probably a 2-page letter last night, and she sent it off somewhere before 9 o'clock. And I read it and I said, Mom, and I copied the world so that everyone could see that her concern is being heard by more than me. And on that email response, I set up a committee, and when this person will reach out to them, is there a better time for us to contact you? This assistant superintendent is going to hear it, and then I'll circle back to hear what happened at that level, and we continue moving forward. Never, I know, well, this is scripture, but it says, never let the sun go down on your wrath. So I don't want people to be angry overnight. So unnecessary.
Right.
Face COVID, communicate, collaborate, come together. We can make it work by spending the time, taking the time. Maybe they won't get the superintendent immediately, but if they send me a communication, I'm going to make sure that the process is addressed according to protocol.
According to protocol. So just always remember that, parents, there is a protocol. There is a process, and we have to go through the process. Let the at the school level, you know, let them go through what they have to go through. Let them handle those situations and everything. And then it has to escalate to another level. Then we go through the process. But there is a protocol. You don't just pick up the phone and think that you're going to get Dr. Deborah Wortham. No, like she said, you're going to get the assistant, and then it will circle to her, and then we'll make sure that that situation is addressed. May not always be that phone call from who you think it's from, but don't think that it did not get to that level. So always just remember that. Listen, I have to talk about this. Served as the first African American female superintendent. That right there, for our young Black girls that are watching right now, to see your face, to hear that is, it really kind of makes you emotional, brings tears to your eyes because of the fact that there is hope. And we see you, Dr. Wortham, and we'd say there's hope. And even this interview is so positive, and there's no negative talk, and we're not downing anyone. And we've turned the word COVID into something positive. To be the first African American Black female, how much pressure was that on you?
You know, it was a little pressure, but pressure makes us perfect. And the way you become perfect is through practice.
Mm,
And I remember in my last district, I served there for 5 years. And the first day I started visiting the schools. I couldn't visit all of them in one day, but I started visiting schools and I asked the students as I walked. I love being in the hallways when the high school students are transitioning. And I said, "Hi, I'm Dr. Wortham. I'm the new superintendent." And they looked at me like, "Okay." And I said, "Listen, what can I do to be the best superintendent?"
mm,
And honestly, the students from going from school to school to school, they actually said the same thing. Are we going to see you? Are
wow.
you coming to our football games? Are you going to do
Mm,
something about that food in the cafeteria? You know? And so they never asked me if I knew the Pythagorean theorem. Never.
mm,
They never asked me about my credentials. They just wanted to know my heart. Are we going
yes.
to see you? Are you going to help us? Because some of us just came to this country and we don't know the language and our families don't know the language. Can you help us? So
Mm,
basically, they described an international transformational model of educating the whole child. They didn't know that, but they
mm,
wanted to make sure that they were healthy, that they were safe, that they were supported, engaged, and challenged.
mm,
They gave me my marching orders. So I created what I call the Superintendent Student Circle. And I traveled from school to school meeting with students every week, so that they could get to know the first African American female superintendent and my journey and how I came to be appointed to sit in that seat.
mm.
So it's not about how much you know that helps, but it's about how much you care and are you willing to spend time to develop our young people.
Because our young kids, they're so impressionable that, like you say, they want to know, can you change what we eat? You
Yes.
know, it's the simple things that we go in there ready, like, okay, we're gonna change this, we're gonna do this, and all they want to know is, can you just not? We don't want to eat this macaroni and cheese anymore. We want a little salad or something. We want this. So I love to hear the fact that it's just the simple things that they wanted from you.
And you know, they said, you know, the cafeteria lines are too long. So
Mm,
we were creative and we took the cafeteria outside of the cafeteria because number one, there were fights in the cafeteria. So
okay.
I just said, well, I'm going to take your lead. Let's take the cafeteria lines outside of the cafeteria. And we created kiosks
Mm,
outside in various hallways. And we converted to one lunch period. Can you imagine 1,200 students eating simultaneously
wow.
at one time?
One
But
time.
because they were invested, it was their idea, they sewed into it. We didn't have any disruptions, none during
Mm,
lunchtime. So we had those various kiosks. The students would sit. We said, okay, well, they need benches. And we put benches in the hallway. This all comes from, you asked me about being the first female African American superintendent. It meant to me that I would hear, I would listen, and then take action and allow the students to advocate
mm,
for themselves. That's
themselves.
what Dr. Martin Luther King taught us, how
Yes.
to advocate. I taught them that their voice matters. So
Yes.
many times we want to, you hear people in the grocery store saying, be quiet, put that back. No, stop,
Yeah.
stop putting your knee on the voice of our young people.
Mm,
And I
yes.
gave them a platform to speak. And
Wow.
that's what it meant to me to be the first African American female superintendent. Voice, student
The
voice was
voice. Right.
paramount for me.
Listen, you are right there where I want to go. So we're going to take another quick break, and then we're going to come back because, again, our youth is our next generation. They are the generation of today, and they're out protesting, and they're out. Their voices are being heard, and a lot of times we try to stop them from being heard. So when we come back, I want to talk about that, of how we can empower them in such a positive way. So ladies and gentlemen, don't go back, don't go anywhere. We are here with Dr. Deborah Wortham. We're talking about the progress through the pandemic. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
T is for the many things they teach us. E is for all the extra care they show. They get A's for their ability to reach us. And C means they're committed that we grow. H is for the homework, keep it coming. ER, Thursday night at 10, 9 Central Time. You put that all together, it spells teacher. And without teachers, well, I wouldn't be able to make this rhyme. Thank you. I'm not a poet, but I play one on TV.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back right here. You are watching Talking with 3D, and I have Dr. Deborah Wortham here with me today. We are talking about the progress in the pandemic, the empowerment that we should give to our children, our parents, our educators. And before we left, you were talking about the voice. And I think it is so important how we allow our children of today have a voice, because a lot of times what our generation, what people don't, they look at what them protesting, they look at the cities being torn down or started on fire, or they see the aggression, but they don't see things being changed, laws being changed, the way that we do things now have been changed. Why? Because our youth has a voice. I think we have to educate still of how to use that voice and how their voice can be heard in a positive way, because of the fact their voices are making change. So, Dr. Wortham, how do we empower those students to say no? Like you said before, take your neck off of them because of that. Don't put your foot on their neck because of the fact that you are stifling them to being heard. How do we encourage our students, our youth of today, to be heard and do it in a positive way?
It's amazing because none of this is really written in a book. I didn't learn this through any of my superintendent's coursework or anything like that, but it comes from the heart, and it comes from being determined to serve and meet the need of your young people. On this particular day, and I had just arrived as superintendent in this district, and I was told that the students were going to have a walkout, and because they were tired of the conditions in the school, they were tired of not having the resources that they needed, etc. And I met with the students in one of the two high schools in a small auditorium, and I said, let me hear your concerns. And so they talked about their concerns, and I gave them a response as to how we would meet, and they were justified. They were absolutely justified. But I talked them through the process that we would take to meet every need on that list. And they said, are you kidding? I said, no. And I gave them the dates and the steps that we would take. So they decided, and this was about maybe 20, 25 students, leaders of the high school student government. And they said, can we go to the next school right now, call an emergency assembly right now, and share with them the strategies that you plan to take. And I said, sure. So those students got on a bus. Yeah,
Get on the bus.
we called that school bus. We said, come now. We called parents. We said, your students are going over to the next high school. Are you okay? And the parents were fine. And those students took to the stage and they talked to 1,200 students. And they talked about how we are going to use our voice and we're going to do so decently and in order. And they did. Now, I did not stop the walkout. So there wasn't a walkout. We called for police escorts. We called for support to walk with. So there's a difference in a walkout and a walk with.
Wow,
because
yes.
when you walk with your head held high.
Come on now.
Exactly. And I told them, and when you use the microphone, you articulate. I don't want to hear ebonics. I want to hear you speak with authority and with confidence.
Yes.
And we went into leadership structures and strategies throughout the course of that year. I held true to everything that I said that we were going to do. It was miraculous. And the students met with me with different vendors and different assemblymen and senators to shake that money to bring it home to the school district where it was sorely needed.
Wow. Dr. Wortham, there's so much that I believe weighs on your shoulders, especially through the pandemic, dealing with different schools, dealing with the elected officials, setting executive orders, things like that. Dr. Wortham, how do you spiritually prepare yourself to get up every single day to say, this is going to be a brand new day. We've got new challenges. How does Dr. Deborah Wortham spiritually say, I am ready for today?
That is a very good question. And I have to say that I understand the need for self-care, and I understand the need to high-five yourself in the morning and tell yourself, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. But I heard in my heart and in my spirit some time ago, several years ago, don't text before you text. Don't word before you word. No Bible, no breakfast. Now, what does that mean? Don't text before you text. Get up in the morning. Don't respond to a text message until you read your text. For me, my text is the word of God. Get centered first. Get centered first. And you'll see that your approach to what might be waiting for you at a text at 6 o'clock in the morning will be different, that you will bring. And I know that when the righteous are in charge, the people rejoice. So this is how I continue to stay balanced, because I look at it to say, I am here to serve, and what is the outcome for the individual, not necessarily the outcome for me. And then don't word before you word. When I get on the treadmill, I am reading the word. And no Bible, no breakfast. Well, by that time I've had Bible, so I can eat breakfast. And then I am ready to say, good morning, Senator. Good morning, Assemblywoman. Good morning, Congresswoman, Congressman. And good morning, students. Good morning, staff.
Wow. Don't text before you text.
Exactly.
Don't text before you text. I mean, that's a word in it right there.
That'll preach.
If people would understand that, because of the fact that, like you say, get centered, know what your purpose is for the day. because a lot of times we'll get up and we read the text and we've read the wrong thought into the text. You know, no Bible before breakfast, or no breakfast before the Bible.
Right.
You know, you have to be able to understand you first. And then once you understand you, then you can, like you, as you were saying, you can take on those different challenges. But, you know, we want to get up so quick. And the first thing we want to do is we want to get on Facebook and we want to see who said what and who's going through what and how. And then we want to read the text and say, well, what she wants? She wants $5, and you don't know what the $5 was for, but we read into it wrong. So therefore, we have to learn how to center ourselves first. And I think that's such a great lesson for us to hear. And it's sometimes, again, it's those simple things that we can do for ourselves that can make a difference to somebody else. You know, we can do so many things to make a difference in somebody's life. And we take that for granted, because we want to take those little things and make them into big things.
You know, it'll help you with the parent who wants to talk to you right now. The
Mm,
parent just needs to know that you care and
mm,
that you have the capacity to make life different
yes.
for their child. That's what it's about. Making yourself ready for the moment.
Making yourself ready for the moment, because again, our children, their education, everything is so special now, and it's always been important, but now there's a difference. And we, as parents, as educators, as people, have to help our children along the way now. And we have to take this negative and make it into the positive, because the progress has already happened. The progress is, you know, the being able to communicate, collaborate together, so we can be victorious and share that destiny with our children. So I think that this COVID-19 can be more than what we think it is. You know, so this has been, I think this has helped me in so many ways. And I hope that it's helped a lot of our parents, a lot of our students, and, you know, those out there, our teachers, because it is so important for us to collaborate together during these times. The moment that we're living in now, we're in it.
We're in it.
We are here, and we're not going back to 2021. We're not going back to 2019. We are here in 2022. So therefore, let's keep learning. The language, as you said, has changed. The roles have changed. So therefore, let's embrace it. And let's keep moving forward in order to make the progress easier. So Dr. Deborah Wortham, what are your final words that you can share with the public today to help us as parents, educators, just help us, the students? What are your words that you can give us to the voice of Dr. Deborah Wortham? We share that with us today.
I'm going to just repeat what has just resonated in my mind, and that was the coming together, the collaborating during this COVID season, and to make sure that we do usher in the victory first for ourselves, take care of ourselves. And when we take care of ourselves, then we will have the strength and the energy to help others to reach their destiny.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just so excited that I did this interview. I was so nervous to do this interview, but again, it's all about education, and it's all about us being able to collaborate, to come together. And you know, today I felt like we did something to change somebody's mind about education, to change their mind about how to handle things, to change their mind to know that, you know what, let me stick in here. Let me learn how to be the voice. Let me see Dr. Deborah Wortham and say, you know what, I too can be that. I too can make a change. As simple as changing the food line, to changing the cafeteria. That's the difference that we want to see. That's the simple little things in life. It's not the who moved my cheese. It's how can we move it together? So Dr. Deborah Wortham, I want to thank you for coming on Talking with 3D. I think you're going to be my residential educator to come on and help us with questions and do things. I know that you were there in New York, but we need you here in Baltimore too. So I don't know how we're going to collaborate and bring you to Baltimore and change some stuff here. But this interview, I'm praying that it does. I know it will. That change is going to happen and change is going to come. So thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Talking with 3D. And we look forward to seeing you every Wednesday right here, Plushwork TV, also on Talking with 3D and also on YouTube. Every Wednesday at 8 o'clock, tune in to Talking with 3D. I am your host, Derrick Durrell Dixon, and it was an honor to share our story with you today. Dr. Deborah Wortham, thank you so much. Have a great evening, and we will see you soon. Please send our love to Elder Chester and to the rest of the family. Don't get snowed in this weekend. I ain't going to talk that anymore. You got a little cold air coming your way, but you'll be all right.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Have a good night.
When you're feeling down and like your world's moving slow, just remember your race. It moves at your pace when marching towards your goal.